A very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Business Today on Channel I. On Business Today as well, we'll be giving you an in-depth look at what the business landscape looks like in the current era. And it's time for us to introduce our guest as well, so do stay tuned in because we will be touching on a very important topic. Well, as mentioned previously, we will certainly be touching on a very important topic. We do have a personality in the studios with us who could do the honors on talking about challenges faced by micro SMEs and SMEs and what we could do and how we could make use of the situation to improve the economic stability. And I think that's very crucial and very timely. So do stay tuned in and let's check out who our personality is. Mr. Kanishka Weeramunda is the founder and director at Pay Media Private Limited. He is the co-founder of Park and Pay and Direct Pay Private Limited. Mr. Kanishka has won many awards including ICT Leader of the Year CSSL in 2018, ICT Entrepreneur of the Year awarded by National Best Software Quality Awards in 2018, Best CEO of the Year awarded from CMI Management Excellence in 2017 and Best Future Leader of the Year awarded by CMI Management Excellence in 2017. Well, we are honored to have with us today Mr. Kanishka Weeramunda, who has won multiple awards, and today we'll be touching on SMEs and micro SMEs and what the future looks like as well. So a very good evening to you and welcome to our program.
Good evening. Thank you.
And first and foremost, we will be touching on the current situation of the country, and we see that the fourth wave has hit us as well. How do we come out of this? Everybody is thinking about economic stability, about incomes. What do we do?
Right. First of all, I will basically explain the situation right now. So if you look at the first wave, we had three shocks. We had the economic shock, which was basically on the demand and supply, and then the financial shock. Now, we got used to it by way of basically getting into the second wave, third wave. Now, fourth wave is quite different because here, if you look at the death rates to the people who are getting sick are massive numbers. So it has affected every household in Sri Lanka today. And because of that, if you really look at the bottom of our economic pyramid, the daily workers to people who earn daily basis has been affected. Then also, if you look at the corner shops, our economical hubs, all has got affected, right? So there is certain amount of, I would say, large scale players are succeeding as well as they are surviving, but economically, the fourth time, everybody is stuck today. So that's where we are in. So we have a lot of challenges.
Where did we go wrong to get stuck right now? Because we did face one lockdown, another, and now this is the fourth wave.
Okay, so I will start from new normal. There was a term came to new normal, right? A lot of people globally try to adjust according to that, right? But I think whenever a wave goes down, we come back to the old way of doing things. I think now a lot of people, a lot of industries, a lot of companies has realized we have to accept this challenge and move forward. I think the comfort zone would have been a major mistake where we had done, getting back and getting comfortable. But now I think even for next 6 months, it's guaranteed that we will have quite challenging situations.
It doesn't look all that great.
No, not at all.
So how is the economic impact on micro SMEs and SMEs?
Right. So if you really look at in any country, 70% of, or rather 70 to 80% of economic contribution is coming from micro SMEs and SMEs. They are the actual job creators, right? So when that backbone of that country is affected, I think economically we are affected, and also it affects a lot of businesses in a way that they cannot continue even after about another 2-3 months. If the country opens, they will not have enough stamina to continue. So a lot of shutdowns. You would have seen a lot of businesses are getting out of their premises. Even if you look at Gall Road, there are a lot of empty
Shops.
buildings, right? And also people had been paying rent. They would have survived through the 3 waves. Now it has come to a 4th wave, and nobody is going to basically go through that.
It's not just about paying rent for the building. I think they need to pay their staff
Yes.
and also look at bringing down staff.
Yeah, not only that, now they would have other insurance, like other commitments which they would have had to pay, but there is no money coming into the business for them to make that payment. And also the concessions which has been provided by the banks are also now coming to end. So those are the challenges.
So those are not small challenges. That's like a major impact
Exactly.
on micro SMEs and SMEs. But what are the challenges faced and how can they overcome?
Right. Now, if you look at today's context, right, customers are not coming to you. Right now, you have to basically come up with new ways where you can go to the customers. So some of the challenges micro SMEs and SMEs are facing is, if you look at their margins, even especially like food business, micro level, it's basically they make about 10 to 20% margin, and most of these channels which offer delivery services charge about 30%. So micro SMEs, it's a completely no-go, right? SMEs sometimes forego the whatever the cost and try to stick on to those channels to at least to survive, but they are completely losing their margin. So those are some of the challenges that most of them are facing, even though we have the platform-based economies available. And on the other hand, because of the dollar rate, the exchange rate, most of the products, their supplies has gone up. So that's another impact which they are facing right now. You can't basically maintain your end price because your raw material prices has gone up.
And some people depend basically on imports.
Yes, there are a lot of people who depends on imports, even food or any, if you look at any trade, there is a certain amount of imports involved.
So what would you like to, tell the people in terms of how they could make this current situation an opportunity for them and maybe grow in some way?
Right. So I think you need to focus on localization. You need to look at basically serving the customers around you. That is one way of looking at bringing down your cost. Even though, I mean, you should not look at basically scaling up right now. For certain businesses, yes, if the opportunity is there, they should be looking at scaling up. But for micro SMEs, right now, one advice is look at reducing your borrowings, because it's a very uncertain period which is going to come to next 6 months to probably 1 year. So reduce your borrowings and then try to look at self-sustainable income generation, right? So maybe you can probably look at partnering with some other parties, because you can grow together. So that's one of the strategies that a lot of people are exploring. And also look at mostly producing certain products which can have low bearing on imports, right? But if you're on the export market, this might be opportunity, right? This might be opportunity because you get a good rate, as well as if you have the logistics and if you can supply, I don't think there will be ever opportunity like this. So I would say in our economy, if you look at 10% might have a good chance, but 90% will have a negative impact. That's where it stands right now.
What does the future look like in terms of, if somebody out there wants to become an entrepreneur, start up a small business, do something, what does it look like right now in the current situation?
Right. It's like this now. If you really look at for entrepreneurship, and now most of us being at home have been pushed to become entrepreneurs, or has been pushed to think of other alternative ways of having income, because for some of us jobs are not sure. For some of us probably you're running on your savings already, you have lost your job. So you need to think of a sustainable way of living your future. So in that context, I think if you can look at a creative way of making money, maybe starting something and trying out, this might be a good time. But I would not advise anybody to invest at this time, because you never know how it's going to turn in another 3 to 4 months.
It's all about saving up and
It's
trying
all
to
about saving.
multiply your savings.
In a way, yes, but also same time you have to look at least getting multiple source of income, because if one goes busted, so you need to have certain other ways of surviving.
How about the people now who have already started their SMEs and micro SMEs, and people who depend on imports? What can they do?
One way is basically looking at getting some sort of alternative supplies from Sri Lanka within. It's not only the dollar, because we also have import restrictions, so that's also another challenging situation. So look at substitutes, that's one way. The other mechanism what you can look at is pivoting. So pivot and see whether you could come out with something which you can still sustain yourself, but in a new business model, right? Maybe like, for example, if you look at some of the travel and tourism companies, they have diverted their staff into call center support, right? Likewise, you should basically look at whatever is a sustainable business right now and try to pivot and match to that particular requirement. That's one way. Yeah,
very correctly mentioned, tourism is something we were counting on, and our economy did count on tourism in a big way. But right now we see that hoteliers and the industry is dropping really bad. It's not just in Sri Lanka, but I think this is a global pandemic, and it's a worldwide issue. So I think this worldwide issue has led to several downfalls even for our country, because now we count on imports, and then certain countries won't be able to manufacture the said product, and then it's actually, I think, a collective thing right now, and I guess we all need to put up some plan and try to fix this in a global way as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. So the collaboration is one of the key things. So that's why I meant also earlier, at a micro SME level or SME level, you can look at localization, and you can also look at partnering. So partnerships actually bring down your risk, and also it gives you other opportunities. There was a nice case study done in Singapore. One of the startups has gone to all these micro SMEs and asked to come on board on a platform, and asked to put their whoever the best 100 customers in. So they were asking, why should I put my customers? What they were saying is, we will be going to 100 such merchants like you, and if everybody gives me 1,000, right, so I will have multiplication of that, right? So you have that opportunity of that much of customers. So likewise, it was a very successful project. So you need to look at basically embarking on technology and try to see what multiple effects you can get out of that.
It's about creative thinking also at this point.
Yes, indeed, yes.
And we see a lot of youth who are, trying to come up in life right now, and they're just school leavers and trying to, find what the best path for them would be. In this situation, what would you advise a youth who wants to be an entrepreneur, maybe select a field and still pondering which one is the best for me?
If you look at today, we have a lot of opportunities. Even if you want to learn something today, you don't need to read books, or you don't need to go for classes. You can do everything on a YouTube. So this is a time where you need to gain skills, and you need to think of ways that a new business model or a new business venture could be launched without any capital cost, or let's say minimum capital cost. So that's the key thing. I would say there are a lot of freelancers, YouTubers, a lot of young people who has done fantastic things, and they are also earning in dollars. So that's another avenue a lot of young entrepreneurs can look at, because freelancing I would say, is a ideal situation right now, where you can basically, it's not a permanent job, but you can basically have a survival income.
You can have options.
You can have multiple options, and that also gives you a great development in your skill set, because
Exactly.
you get exposed to international teams, you can work with foreign clients, so that gives you a lot of exposure, and this is a good period to have that.
And experience as well.
Yes.
Dealing with multiple people, multiple kinds of types of people and situations. And well, you are, specialized in financial technology. And you mentioned previously that when we consider the challenges faced by micro SMEs and SMEs, we see that now customers don't come to their doorstep, but instead we have to find a way to go there. So tell us about what help could your sector do in terms of, having remote payment methods?
Right. So there are several fintech opportunities which has come today. I think if you really look at on a pandemic situation, fintech is a buzzword, because everybody wants payments. Micro SMEs to SMEs to large corporates, everybody is looking for payments. And also same time, customers are also finding it difficult to invest or maybe spend large amounts. So micro payments is an ideal situation, right? So now if you take Sri Lanka, we have about 23.5 million debit cards been issued, and we have about close to about 1.9 million credit cards been issued. But if you look at the head count, it's about within 800,000 people. So card infrastructure is there. So one of the things that SMEs and micro SMEs can look at is online payments. So that's one of the areas. There are methods where you can send a remote payment link and collect payments. So you don't need to physically visit the customer. You can send a link through WhatsApp or SMS and then collect payments. So that is one. Then you also have products called buy now pay later. So that is basically, if you wanted to get a customer onboarded where the customer is not willing to pay the full price now, but you convert the customer by way of giving him an installment payment scheme. Maybe for the customer it might be a zero interest, but the merchant will have that opportunity of having that customer right now. So that's one of the things that you could consider if you are especially in fashion business, or if you are in other retail sector.
I see a lot of people doing that in cosmetics and
Yes.
fashion.
Yeah.
And that, I think, attracts a lot of people, because they could just purchase now and consider paying later, or
Yes.
they can work on it at least.
Yeah. And then we also have the Lanka QR, which has been issued by central bank. And I think we have about 23 apps which is running right now carrying on Lanka QR payments. So you could also look at that, because that transaction cost is very minimum. It's about 0.5%.
Right.
So it's ideal for SME sector, and the affordability is much more easy, and you don't probably need a device. You can do it with just a sticker on your shop. So those kind of technologies also gives you the ability on remote payment collections, as well as it's much more secured. And when you look at the pandemic health conditions, it's the best way to do, because you're not going to touch any cash. If you look at previously, we had certain situations where cash actually has spreaded the virus. So that can be eliminated. So that's something which you can look at. And on the other hand, using digital payments will give a big saving for the economy, because you don't need to print money, you don't need to circulate, cash in transit risk is not there. So recycling of money is also not there. So there is a lot of economic
There's a lot of savings.
Yes.
So how will the exchange rate affect us now? We do see a major issue with that.
Yes. So like I said, there are two sides of it. If you are in a import business, you will basically be impacted, right? You will be heavily impacted.
But it's vice versa when it's exports.
Exactly. If you are at exports, this is your time where you should put your, I would say, the best efforts and try to produce much as possible and try to convert it into much as possible dollars. So that's how the game basically goes on. So in import, what you should do is basically look at a lot of local substitutes. Everything what you can basically get from the local market, you should be basically buying it. So that's where you can basically, at least for a temporary period, you can balance off and sustain your business.
And we've come to us the final few minutes as well. Tell us a little bit about Direct Pay Private Limited.
Okay, so Direct Pay is a fintech or financial technology company, which is basically authorized by central bank to operate in Sri Lankan market, and we do partner with few banks in Sri Lanka, mainly Cargill's Bank, Commercial Bank, then Ceylon Bank, Hatton National Bank, as well as Nation Trust Bank. So what we do is we bring SME sector as well as micro SME sector payment solutions, right? So the question what we are trying to solve is, how do I get digitally paid by a merchant? So that's where basically we aim, and we provide internet payment gateway, we provide point of sale devices for card swiping and tapping, and we also support them on products such as virtual payment collection, and also we integrate biller platforms. So that's whole works that we do in financial technology.
And what advice would you like to give the public out there, because their mindset right now is not that great, and as we previously spoke of, that it doesn't look good for the next 6 months or so. So what would you like to tell as of a final message to the public who are tuned in? How could they handle this situation?
Right.
Because you need to be thinking positive at this juncture, I guess.
Yeah. So I think I would advise 3 things. First, so this is a good time period for you to spend some personal time with your family, as well as if you look at your education. So learn something new, and also try to spend more time with your loved ones. Then the second thing is reduce your borrowings, right? Especially on credit, and also especially on loans, reduce your borrowings. And finally, what I would like to tell them is, you need to basically plan ahead where, when the wave ends, right, what you're going to do next. So this is basically your homework and preparation time.
Basically, don't take it for granted.
Exactly.
And we need to right now start thinking about all the New Year resolutions we thought of, because 2021 is almost coming to an end.
Yes.
And we're going to step into a new year. So what have we done is the question. But I think, with COVID and with lockdowns and a lot of issues, as you mentioned, they need to focus on how to grow.
Yes. So this is the best time if you wanted to spend some time on education.
Exactly. And there's so many platforms, I think, to be educated right now, online platforms.
Yeah, that's the best part of it is you can do it from home.
And you have the time.
You have the time, and everybody is online.
With that, it's time for us to wind up this week's edition of Business Today as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Kanishka Weeramunda, for talking to us, and it was really informative. And thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Thank you.
With that, we wind up this week's edition of Business Today. We had Mr. Kanishka Weeramunda, entrepreneur in Residence Square Hub, Sri Lanka, founder Pay Media Private Limited, and co-founder of Direct Pay Private Limited. With that, we conclude, and have yourself a pleasant night.